All right, welcome to the Minority Alliance Organization meeting. Tonight's topic, we'll be talking over civil rights heroes and what they mean to us. With the loss of two great civil rights heroes this week with C.T. Vivian and John Lewis, it was two great men who've done, a ton, for not just the African American community, but, different communities in general and different things that they continue to push and the rhetoric that they continue to go forward with, no matter what resistance that came up against them. Especially with John Lewis, he faced a lot of hurdles in his life and still continued to fight for what he knew to be right, no matter what anybody else said or no matter the way, the world felt about what he was saying at the time that he was saying it. He always stuck to his guns, and that's one thing that's well respected. So I want to go ahead and bring in Michael on the beginning of this, and I want you to just talk a little bit about either one, CT, Vivian, or both if you like, and as I said, about what they mean to you and what they mean to our movement in general.
I've always been like a huge fan of John Lewis. Even before I really got to like know more about him, I always like how they called him the conscience of the Congress. The things he would speak about is a lot of things that a lot of them wouldn't really touch on, like his topics and everything like that. Even the way he talked, and I always just respected him. Well-dressed man, super smart man. And then to find out later on in life, he was one of the original freedom riders, and one of the main people protesting with Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King, gets a lot of the well-deserved credit. I mean, of course. But, I feel like some of the people who were like beside him didn't really get as much light. And he was never a person that was ashamed of that. He didn't really want the credit or anything like that. He was just really, really smart the way he went about everything. I loved it, and that's why some years ago when I saw that he endorsed John Ossoff, that made me look into John Ossoff. Just had the recommendation of John Lewis is pretty huge, in my eyes, And for, like you said earlier, for John Lewis to go through the things that he went through, to have his skull all messed up, from, peacefully protesting, that's really deep to me. To go through something like that and just still continue to go on peacefully, just fighting for a cause. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people miss, whenever they're talking about our protests, they always want to shoot towards the riots, but they don't want to speak on all the peaceful protests that's been going on for countless of years. And that takes me to CT Vivian. It's crazy because I don't know, like the fact that he was actually older than Martin Luther King. Like CT Vivian lived a long, long time. He was almost 100. CT Vivian was around, and really we needed people like him too. For him to be a big leader of the goodness, I'm sorry, forgive me for slurring my words, but for him to be a big part of a lot of good Black organizations, to be a strong man, that's really what our generation needed. So it's really good that him and John Lewis were around as long as they were, because to see the whole change of tide, the whole change of generations, we needed those opinions, and still the Congress is not going to be the same without them. That's really how I feel about both of those people. Like huge major influences that we couldn't do without. We needed people like that. And now it's up to, now I really want to see what it's like.
You feel like we lost a good voice in Congress with losing both of them. That's two strong people that we had in Congress at the time. When Congress, not to make it a color situation, but when you're looking at Congress in a color aspect, that's a loss of the melting pot that we actually had going on in Congress. It made it a little bit more one-sided now. So I totally agree.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel about it, and I might even go as far as to say we lost the biggest voice in Congress. That's really how I feel about it. That's a huge, huge loss. Understated loss. A lot of people won't really understand what we lost, because a lot of people don't like to go back and do research. A lot of people don't like to go back and do all the reading and understanding. But when they actually understand, they will understand what we actually lost.
Most definitely. Thank you, brother. And now, Mark, I just want to bring you in, as I said, with the same question. And, I just want you to speak from your perspective on what John Lewis meant to you, or CT Vivian, or both, if you care to talk on both.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first time I heard the name John Lewis, I was actually in the fourth grade. Um, the Detroit public schools didn't have a whole lot, but they tried a lot, and we actually had Rosa Parks come to our school when I was in the fourth grade, and they talked a lot about the movement and some of the people in the movement, and John Lewis's name was brought up. I had heard of CT Vivian, but I didn't know that much about him. Up in Detroit, we didn't hear that much about. We heard some of the Titanic names in the South, but we didn't hear that much about CT Vivian. But we did hear a lot about John Lewis, and I would encourage everyone. The word of the day and the word of the year is education. For those who have not educated themselves, I strongly suggest that you do on both of these men. Um, Titanic doesn't even begin to, kind of, begin to describe what these men were able to do, not just for the civil rights movement, but just for blacks in general, for our advancement. And they did it in two different ways. It was actually pretty fascinating getting up to speed on some of the things that both of these men did, both on for John Lewis on the side of just general education, policy, being able to be that voice of Congress and be that conscience of Congress from the beginning days of meeting Dr. King when he was just still a teenager, and being on that bridge, and then being on that bridge again 50 years later with the first black president, and still having the scars of what happened the first time he crossed that bridge, of getting, not just the degrees that he got, but over 50 honorary degrees from various institutions, being in Congress for 17 terms, and really being that voice and really being that, that leader, not just in how to get things done, but how to get things done through understanding and through talking, and not violence, not the rhetoric, and not the things that have kind of poisoned any messages that anyone has today. And for CT Vivian, just getting up on and learning how, being able to learn from others and take that along the way. Like, learning about the fact that he, actually took a class, that John Lewis took that class as well, that was taught by a man named James Lawson. And that man learned under Gandhi on how nonviolent, strategic action would be taken, and being able to apply that strategic action to being able to move things, to being able to, they marched on Nashville 5 years before they marched on Selma, and being able to get, that Southern, hard white mayor to even admit to themselves that, discrimination against blacks is wrong. And being able to take that and move on and be able to write books and to be able to, run leadership groups and to be on the board of the first black-owned bank in Atlanta. We talk in this group a lot about the types of businesses and minority-owned businesses that can uplift the community. You can't do better to start that than a bank. So being, all these different things. John Lewis getting the Freedom Award, or actually, I'm sorry, Liberty Medal, and the types of people who were able to get that type of award. And he was actually given that award on the anniversary of the signing of the 14th Amendment. There's all of these different things that a younger crowd, a much more fast, quick pace kind of, what's going on and need to know now kind of generation really needs to take a step back and realize the type of dedication that these men had to the advancement of, our people and minorities in general, and being able to understand you don't get there with a lot of rhetoric and threats and things like that. You get there by taking those steps forward, by being willing to sacrifice, by being willing to talk, and being willing to, more so than to talk, and listen, and bring people along, and teach young people, and bring young leaders along, and make another generation and things like that. There's a lot of stuff going on in Congress that we don't like, but there's a lot of people in Congress right now who would not be there if it weren't for the things that people like John Lewis did. There's an understanding that needs to be had with that. And that last image of him, I think it's the last public image that anyone has, is him standing on that B of that large Black Lives Matter mural that's in the street, down the street from the White House. Like, you can't beat that. That's a culmination of where you start on a bridge in Alabama and where you end up in front of the White House. You know, it shows that the struggle still continues, but it shows that we're not losing. So we got to keep it going, and things got to keep moving.
Yes, sir. Most definitely. And that was awesome. And I mean, for myself personally, as I said, with John Lewis, I heard about John Lewis years ago, of course, in school. You know, when you start talking about civil rights, you have your Black History Month. And I'm from Georgia. So in Atlanta, Georgia, you know, we have our historic sites like the Martin Luther King home, the Ebenezer Church and such. So we would go to all of these different places. And as I said, I would learn about John Lewis back then. I mean, it struck me even as a young person, you know, at his determination and his fight and how many times he had, you know, gotten arrested for his true cause and certain things that later on in life, well, later on now in this generation, certain things he fought for and he got arrested for aren't even technically illegal anymore to do, or, you know, it's basically a freedom of speech type deal. And, you know, he went through a ton of adversity in getting to the points that he got to in life. And, you know, as I said, more so than anything, when it comes to John Lewis, his determination, more so than anything, should stand out to everyone. And with CT Vivian, you know, these two great men should, if anything, cause the younger generation to start doing their own research on the great accomplishments of both of these men. And it should only spark interest more and more in younger minorities joining Congress or joining, you know, the Senate, or trying to figure out a way to get to these points to where we don't feel like we've, as Michael was saying earlier, we feel like we've lost two great voices. So if we felt like we lost two great voices, why not gain another 50, you know, on the back end? If, you know, that's what their dream would be, is to see, you know, two gone, you know, and more coming forward, you know. So I think that should be the push, and that should be the biggest lesson coming from all this, you know, period. And I mean, that's what I believe personally. But I mean, at the end of the day, like me and Marcus, we were speaking, I know, this week, and it's another topic that I just wanted to run by, you know, Michael, you also, you know, what was your take personally on, you know, the Kanye rally and the way that he presented himself, and, you know, what are some things that you did like that you could take away from it, and what are some things that you didn't like, you know?
Okay. So, you know, and you and I spoke about this, earlier this week. You know, my take on it, you know, I'll start with the good. You know, the good is that, you know, it is good to have a different voice, a completely different voice into the situation, a person with a different perspective. And there are some of the ideas that he had and some of the takes that he had, they weren't necessarily wrong. You know, there's a packaging issue, but, you know, I'll get to that in a second. But I do believe that, you know, there are some things that aren't being spoken of. And, you know, if nothing else, if Kanye doesn't go any farther than this, what he could end up being, like we talked about before, is a snowball in the side of a mountain that eventually causes an avalanche. Sometimes it starts off small. Sometimes it starts off with a message that only has a few pieces in there that you can take and go, oh, you know what, that's actually a good idea. What can we do to expand on that? And then what can we do to add on to that? And it can turn something from a speech into an idea, into a movement. So I think that there's definitely some merit to some of those ideas and some of those perspectives. The major problem that I saw with this whole thing is that you can, again, as we talked about before, you're going out and you're trying to do something powerful and you're trying to do something special. You need to win people on your side. You need to bring things to the table that are not just different from what everybody else is talking about, but people need substance to it. There isn't a case anymore for a rhetoric-driven campaign. And for Kanye to attack things in the way that he attacked things, I mean, you can't lose people in your own rally, in your own argument because of the way you packaged it. I think that was an extreme failure of analysis and advising on how you're going to deliver the messages that you're trying to say. You can lose those things. Antics matter, and they're not the same. They're not going to be the same. A person like Donald Trump will go out there and he'll do antics, but there's an entire army of politics that are trying to use him as a heat shield to co-opt all of the bad policies, all of the corporate friendly policies, all of the dollar bill pocket stuffing policies that they're trying to get off. Kanye doesn't have that benefit. So if you don't have that benefit, you have to go out there and you have to do things in a manner. You know, did Barack Obama put in all the policies that would help minorities? Absolutely not. But I can tell you this, from 2008 to 2016, that man didn't miss a step when it came to public speaking, when it came to getting his point across, when it came to making sure you understood and you felt a certain way about whatever point he was trying to make, good or bad. And that is one of the first lessons to actually doing this, you know, the right way. And, you know, you can do damage to your own movement just by having a bad wrapping on your package. And that's a lesson that I think he's going to learn eventually. You know, it might be right message, wrong messenger. That could be the thing. But, you know, I try to pick at it and try to see, you know, both sides of it. Because I actually have friends who are supporting of what Kanye is doing. And I think personally, I think it's a distractionary. But at least at this time, maybe in 2024, it's not distractionary. Right now, it kind of is. Because right now, I think there's a bigger fish to fry, and that is getting that dude that's in the White House out, period. Because like I said, it's a choice between cigarettes and cyanide right now. One could kill you eventually, one will kill you right now. And we can't play this game anymore. We played it for 3.5 years. You see the results. This isn't that time. So I think Kanye has some time to get his message straight, to get his vision straight, and to get his packaging straight. And maybe then we can, you know, get some things out there and get people a chance to see it, where we can actually talk about, you know, the substance as opposed to that display. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yes, sir. And how about yourself, Michael?
I want to touch base on a couple of things, Marcus said. Like you said, about Obama, like, did he put everything in place, make all the policies for minorities, like, for it to be better? Like you said, no, he didn't. And me and my mom was actually talking one time, and we came to the conclusion to understand it's like Barack Obama, like he said, when Obama didn't miss a step, that's the only president I've seen in my lifetime to not have anything fishy going on throughout his whole campaign. We're talking 8 years, nothing fishy, like nothing crazy happening behind the scenes, nothing happening on the outside, nothing that we came out of nowhere that we didn't know, nothing crazy that he was dealing with, like literally nothing. So when Mark said that man didn't miss a step, he really didn't miss a step. But he was really good. And about Kanye, my thing about Kanye is it's like there's two sides. Some of the stuff he says is like, it has some importance to it. I like what he says sometimes. Excuse me. But then there's other times where I feel like he gets lost in his zone. And words are very, very powerful when you are a powerful person. There are people who don't want to think. They only want to think what you think. So when you say certain words and you say certain things, there's followers who are just going to believe what you're saying just because you are who you are. And I feel like Kanye kind of gets lost in that. So he starts to say a little bit of opinion and thoughts instead of facts. And people get lost in that, especially in this era. We live in the social media era. It's so easy for one thing you say to get out to billions of people. And a lot of those people will follow what you're saying. But I do believe Kanye is a smart person. He's really, really smart. I was listening to T.I. and Killer Mike. And I love listening to T.I. and Killer Mike because those brothers there, they have a lot of knowledge that they're willing to give out for free. And it's rare that you find that nowadays, and it's sad. But they said we cannot afford to lose Kanye as a black man. As part of our movement, we cannot afford to lose Kanye. And at first, I was like, I don't really know how I feel about that, because Kanye, he kind of goes off on the deep end sometimes. But I try to literally sit down and listen to some of the things Kanye says, and he does have some good points. But like I said, sometimes he just goes off in the deep end, and it just like Marcus said, it's like a lot of rhetoric in the end, and I'm like, yeah, you kind of lost me there, But honestly, now it's like Marcus said again, the big priority right now, we have to get rid of Donald Trump, no matter what. Am I a fan of Joe Biden? No. Am I a fan of pretty much a lot of other people that's running? Not really. Like, there was a couple people. I do like Cory Booker. I wish he was still running. There was a couple people that were running that I really wanted to see them, but I would take anybody over Donald Trump. And even if it has to be Kanye, I would take Kanye, because at least Kanye has some knowledge that we can all at least, if Kanye would find himself to be able to listen to another side, because I know sometimes Kanye gets, like I said, driven in his zone to where Kanye feels like it's fact instead of his thoughts and his opinion. If he's willing to sit down and negotiate certain things and certain thoughts and processes, I would definitely take Kanye over Donald Trump. I'll take anybody over Donald Trump. I'll take myself over Donald Trump. Like, it's like you said, we just have to get him out. That's how I feel about Kanye.
Yeah, if I could just piggyback off of what Michael was saying, I think one of the problems with Kanye, and again, I will not, disparage that man for, the music that he's done and, the words that he's said and things like that. I think there's a very fine line. I think you lose something for everything you gain. And I think for any type of, for a musical genius and things like that, when you look underneath, there's a genius there, but there's also a little touch of, quirkiness and a little touch of madness and a little touch of things that aren't necessarily right. The biggest problem, I think, for Kanye right now is that you don't do this alone. You do not walk on stage and become president. You need a team, you need advisors, you need people that help sculpt that message and take a vision that you have, mold it, turn it into something that you can get people to get on board with. Like I said before, you want to become president, you need about 60 to 70 million people minimum to walk into a voting booth and say, that's my guy. It can't be one. It can't just be one set. It can't be one minority. It can't be one thing. You need some suburban moms. You need some white educated. You need some non-white educated. You need some black people who have never voted before in their life in their 50s to go out and register. How do you reach those people? That is a legitimate question. And you have to be able to answer that question. And there are certain things you can't do when you're trying to reach those people. So I think that it's an advisory issue to understand that you do need help on some things. Even if you've been able to grab a microphone and grab a pen and grab a paper and actually make yourself millions of dollars on your own, that is awesome. You are going into an arena where you are not trying to play to 50,000 fans. You are trying to play to 320 million. You need a legitimate, powerful message that reaches the masses. So I think, as time goes on and whether he drops out, whether he sees this to the end or whatever, if he has a future with this, it's going to be in having people on your side, having a clear plan, having an understanding of all the things that go along with this: foreign policy, economics. How do you raise the quality of life? How do you stop people from dying? We got a virus going around right now. What do you think about that? We need more than that. You can't spend 20 minutes of your life basically emotionally replaying your views on abortion. You can't. Like, this isn't that time. So, I hope that he is able to do that, because I agree with Killer Mike and T.I. on that, absolutely. That the talent that you have, we need them all in order to get where we're going. If you have the gift of gab, if you are a musician, if you can touch people, if you can do those things, we need everyone. We need every one of those voices. So we don't want to lose anybody. But at the same time, man, we have got to get this right.
And if you don't mind, I was just gonna say one thing.
You're good, Mike.
What is it? One of my biggest fears about, Kanye's election is I hope he's doing this for the right reason. I don't want it to be later to where it's like he was never really serious about it in the first place. Like, I really, if Kanye's gonna do this, I want him to be fully all in. I want him to do this, because if Kanye's head is on right, and like you said, if he has those team members who's able to say like, look, Kanye, don't say that because that sounds ridiculous. Like, don't go out there. It's certain things, like you said, it's certain things you just can't say, because like you said, you're not out here trying to play for 50,000 fans. You're out here playing for a whole country, and we're on the move here. Like, this is one of the I was listening to the radio today, and they said the movement that we are having right now is bigger than ever. It's bigger than it ever was in the '60s. Like, this is the biggest civil rights era that we're living in. This is civil rights era part two, and it is bigger, it is better, it is stronger. Like, we have to keep this going. We cannot afford to backtrack. So that was just what I was gonna add on to that.
Yes, sir. And I thank both of you guys for both of your, your sides and opinions, because I think the internet has ran wild with with this topic this week, about Kanye. And I mean, and as I said, my personal opinion is, I mean, I don't lean which either way. I think that, the person that comes with the best idea, the person that comes with more so than the best idea, the best game plan, needs to be put in position. I mean, whether that's Republican, Democrat, or birthday party. Now we got birthday party. So, no matter what party they come from, whoever's running this year needs to have a real idea. And as Mark was just saying, it's not just about one topic. And I agree with him. Kanye, you got so stuck on the abortion topic, and I realized you wanted to bring somebody up, and you wanted to talk it out and hash it out so that people can see it in a public manner. But the issues that we're facing today need to be at the forefront of whoever's running for president. I don't care who it is, whoever we feel that is a candidate that we want to stand behind. I need to hear, what's your views on reparations? What is your views on how you can help the communities that have been affected, from police brutality for years? How can we help change in the justice system, make change in the justice system that everybody is craving, so everybody's throwing out these different things basically to distract you. Oh, what about, and I mean, COVID is a huge topic now, but you got to be looking, a presidency lasts for 4 years. And I pray that COVID doesn't last for 4 years. So yes, COVID is a big topic now, but let's talk about these topics on what we need to be changing in the next 4 years, moving on into the future is really where my focus is at personally. So as with Kanye, I mean, I don't totally knock, a lot of places he was coming from. I think as far as, you are, as has been restated twice already, I'm going to restate it one more time. You're trying to get a whole country behind you. That's more than just the people who already even know about you. That's introducing other people to you. You don't want that first introduction to be basically what it was. That first introductions mean, the world to a lot of people. And if they're basing basically would I ever look at you as a president off of the first time I see you, a lot of people would automatically take him off their list just because of certain things he may have went overboard, or certain actions he may have did that wasn't totally understood by everyone else. So I believe, in his aspect, I love the platform he's running on. I love the fact that he's, waking people up to see, like, we need more parties out here. Even if you got to go create your own party, we need options out here is basically what it is at the end of the day. And I hope that he continues long enough for it to create not just a wave, but a tsunami to where everybody wakes up and they see, the directions politically we need to be going in into the future, period. Whereas you should have options. Things shouldn't be just so one-sided. It should be, as I've said a few times this week, I believe personally in the popular vote. And I mean, I believe the popular vote is so lost in districting and okay, just because my state is districted a certain way, this president automatically gets the vote from this state when majority of the people in the state don't even agree with that person. So I believe we got to move more into a system of the popular vote and what more people can agree on, because you end up getting a situation to where we got to live under a system that we don't all necessarily agree on the system, but the people with power, the people who were able to set the districts to where their vote means more than what you have to say, they're basically the ones in control, and those things have to change. You know, the American people really have to get back in control of, you know, our Congress, our Senate, our presidency. You know, we have to get back in control of our country, our nation, period. Because I believe we've lost control to this top percentile, and they basically run everything, and we just have to end up living with whatever they choose to do. And that's, you know, it's time for a change, you know, at the end of the day. So if anybody else would like to make any more, you know, comments on today's, you know, discussion before, you know, we close out today.
I feel like we hit it pretty much on the head today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we hit some really strong topics, and you know, I really like what you said there at the end about actually being able to give our vote back to the people. I mean, you know, there are different reasons for things like the electoral college and districting or whatever, but we have to evolve. Take a look at your cell phone. It is not the cell phone that you had 5 years ago. Everything evolved. I mean, we have to evolve our country as well. You can't have the exact same number of Senate representation in a state like Montana with the same as the state of New York. It just doesn't work. So we need to give our elections and we need to give our vote back to the people, because the people want things and they are not being listened to. There are corporations putting money. When's the last time you even heard the word bribe when it comes to politics? You don't hear it anymore because it's wrapped up into campaign donations, campaign financing, things like that. So it is corporations. It is not even 10% that rules. It's 5% that rules. And it's time, you know, it's well past time that we get some voices both into our Congress and then eventually into the White House who can break the ice on that, because we truly won't have democracy where we can have those type of conversations. We can have a conversation about reparations, and we can have a conversation about quality of life for our citizens, and making sure that we secure the bottom of our society, because it's the foundation of our society. Until that's done, we have, you know, that's an understanding. And the bad part is we all know it. So the question is, what are we going to do about it?
Yes, sir. That's absolutely right. You know, it comes to the point, you know, and I mean, even with what we've been putting together for the past few weeks, you know, who's going to stand up, and, you know, who's going to voice their opinion, who's going to, you know, make the actual difference. We can sit online and we can talk about it all day, but, you know, we got to get our feet actually out into the streets and, you know, make a difference. That's where it starts. So, I mean, I'm going to end with this. There's also, for the listeners on the recording, just to run it by everybody again, we're doing the back to school drive through the organization. So if there's any devices, even if it's all you can give is a couple sheets of paper, even if it's a couple binders, it doesn't matter what it is, the littlest to the biggest thing, anything helps to be able to give back to the kids within the Atlanta community is where we're going to put our focus at this year. And we only hope to spread, you know, every year to being able to help more and more kids. But I mean, for our first year, we really want to try to get out and help our own city and help our community here to, you know, make the step in the right direction and introduce them to what we have going on through the organization also, so that we can create this change from our end that we are trying to create. So if there's anything that anybody could do to support, donate your time, or even if it's donating an item, device, or anything to help kids while they're transitioning back into school at this hybrid, you know, different time, something that we've never dealt with before, you know, and kids are already stressed themselves with not being in the typical classroom and not being going through things that they're normally going through. So anything we could do to help ease their minds by, you know, giving them a binder with a smile on it, or, you know, whatever it is we can do to help them out with going back to school right now. I would love for everybody to try to participate and try to be giving in this season to be able to help them back in the right direction, get back into school. And thank you everybody for being a part of the conversation today. And I hope, next week we only continue, with the same energy and the same passion that we keep coming with every week, and continue to build, this organization, and continue to bring people into what we've got going on, because, this organization, I'm gonna say, is built on love, is built on hearing each other out, is built on compassion and understanding. And I believe that's the main thing that has been lost in the American society, period. We got to bring that back. We got to get people back to a sense of, more so than anything, understanding first. Understand, just because I'm not like you, just because I don't look like you, I may not live in the same area you live in, but at the end of the day, we all still 100% American. We all still have blood in us. So let's come to what we can agree on, and what we can do to move our country forward in the right direction. So thank you fellas again today, and I hope to see you guys again next week.
No problem, man. Y'all take it easy.
All right, yes,
All right,
sir.
take care.